Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Sri Tips here. It's Saturday morning, about 20 minutes past 7, and what we're going to do today is we're going to try to refine this gold in a single day. We're going to be refining on the clock here today. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about a few things here. If you try to get a hold of me through my eBay site, I won't be able to talk to you because eBay does not allow general communications on their system. So if you send me a message to my eBay site, I'm just going to have to delete it because I cannot respond. I try to read all my comments and answer questions there for all to see, so all people can benefit from the question that you might have. It might pertain to some other viewer. So if you have questions for me, contact me through my comment section on my channel. Another topic that keeps popping up is people ask me to refine material for them, and I do not refine other people's material. I only refine the items that my wife and I find at local sales. So I just want to let people know that I'm not a professional refiner. I do this as a hobby, so I cannot refine your material for you. Another issue that keeps coming up is people say I'm refining stolen material. I do not refine stolen material. This material here came from some people that I know, and what happened is their loved ones died in a tragic accident, and so they sold me their material. If I suspect anything of being stolen, or if I don't know the people, then I don't buy it from them. So we never process any stolen material here. It's all from people that I know and trust. So now we've got everything sorted out here. I've got 18K material here, 10K material here, and 14K material here. Someone had asked how many times I can use a melt dish, and this has been used one time in my previous video. This is one that's been used about 10 or 12 times, and you can see there's some black in there. And so what I usually do is retire this from gold melting and commit it to inquartation duty. I'm going to zero this out here. Here's our 14K material. I'm going to dump it in the melt dish here, and now we're going to record the weight. We got 96.7 grams. 96.7 grams of 14K. Zero it out. This is our 10K material, and we've got 50 grams of 10K material. And now the 18K stuff, zeroed out, add the 18K. That's 14.8 grams of 18K material. Time's about 7:33, so that only took a few minutes because I had most of this stuff pre-sorted and there wasn't a whole lot of non-gold material that had to be removed. So now let's go out and melt this up. Someone had asked about the constants that I use to calculate the amount of silver in here, and I'm going to show you in a minute. how to do this longhand. One of my viewers, I can't remember his name, I'd like to thank him though, again, came up with these constants that if you just use these every time, you can avoid having to do all the long drawn out calculations. 96.7 times 1.265 equals, that means I need 122.3 grams of sterling silver for the 14K. The constant for 10K, let's see, we got 50 grams times 0.635 equals, so we need 31.7 grams of sterling for the 10K. The constant for 18K is 1.9, so we need 28.1 grams of sterling for the 18K. If you add all these up, we get 182.1 grams of sterling silver needed to quart this amount of karat gold. To calculate how much gold I'm expecting to yield, I take the weight of the 14K, multiply it by 0.583. 0.583 is the product of, or whatever you call it, of 14 divided by 24. So we're 58.3% of this weight is going to be pure gold. So I got 96.7 times 0.583 equals, I should get 56.3 grams of pure gold from this amount of 14K gold. I do the same thing with the 10K gold. 0.417 or 41.7% of this weight right here that we started with, 50 grams, is pure gold. So I'm expecting 20.8 grams of pure gold from this amount of 10K. Do the same thing with the 18K. I've got 14.8 grams. Multiply that by 0.75, and we're expecting 11.1 grams of pure gold from that amount of 18K gold. So I add all these numbers up and I get an estimated yield of 88.2 grams. Now I'm going to demonstrate how to do a long calculation on determining how much silver we need to quart. I've got 96.7 grams of 14K, so I multiply that by 0.583. That equals 56.3 grams. Now I multiply this by 3 so that I get an alloy that's 1 part pure gold and 3 parts sterling silver. So that's 56.3 times 3 equals 168.9 grams. The karat gold has some silver and other base metals in it, so what I got to do is I got to subtract the amount of pure gold I expect to recover from this, and we get, let's see, 96.7 minus 56.3 equals 40.4 of silver and base metals that's already in our karat scrap. Now I subtract that from the calculated amount over here because it's already in this metal and I don't want to add too much silver. So that's 5, 8, 16 minus 4 is 12. So I got 128.5 grams of sterling silver that I need to add to this amount of karat gold. I always reduce the amount of silver that I calculate by 5%. So I multiply this by 0.95 and we've got 128.5 times 0.95 equals, so we want 122.07 grams of sterling silver. If you look up here, it nearly very closely matches the amount that we get when we use the constant. So the bottom line is, if I use this constant right here every time on the amount of karat gold, 14K in this case, that I'm refining, it will perfectly give me the amount of sterling silver that I need to properly quart this amount of gold, rather than having to go through this entire process. I just make one calculation using this constant. We determined that we need 182.1 of sterling silver. It's not critical to get this right on the button here, and I've got 183.2 grams already measured out of sterling silver. So let's go out now and quart our gold. People may be wondering why I'm adding silver to the gold here. It seems counterintuitive that we're going to be purifying gold by adding silver, but it's a refining technique called inquartation. It's one of the most valuable refining techniques that I've ever learned. It will really clean the gold up nicely for us. Let's rinse this off with a little distilled water. There we go. We're ready for nitric acid digestions. Here's our unquarted gold in this 2-liter beaker here. What I'm going to do is begin by adding some used nitric acid from a previous refining. It still has nitric in it and can still dissolve gold. So we're going to add this in to our unquarted gold. What this will do is this will dissolve out the silver and the base metals in the karat gold that was already in it before we started this process, plus any of the silver that we just added. That will all get dissolved out now, but the gold will be left intact. The nitric acid will not attack the gold. This was nitric boil number 1. And what we're going to do now is pour this off. Get rid of the silver solution that's in here now. I'm going to pour it into a jar over here that I have reserved for the silver solutions. Pour it right off in here. Now what we'll do is add some more distilled water. Well, let's do this. Let's use this, some used nitric down here that I have. So we'll use this first. This is some used nitric from our previous refining, so we'll pour that right on in. Now what we'll do is set this back up on the heat and do our second nitric boil. We've been at it for 6 hours now. This is our 5th nitric acid boil. And as you can see by the color of this solution, it's still got some good nitric, so we're going to save this for future refining. Now let's get this 6th nitric boil poured into our container here. Save this acid because it's still good and can still dissolve silver and base metals. Now what we'll do is rinse this with distilled water a couple of times. Now I'm going to add some distilled water to it. And we're going to put it up on some heat and just let it boil just for a few minutes. We've had it on boiling for a few minutes. Now we're going to take and pour off the water into our silver jar. And now, here's our pure gold. It's ready for refining with Aqua Regia. It's very close to 999 fine gold, just like it is in there. We could melt it up without any further refining, but there's probably still going to be some junk in there. So we're going to go for a full refining here. I'm adding about 300 milliliters of hydrochloric acid. I'm going to add some sulfuric acid to precipitate any lead that may be present in our gold. Not very much, maybe a 1.5 milliliters or so. I'm going to measure out 30 milliliters of nitric acid. We're going to go ahead and dump that right on in. Here we go. I think we've got everything dissolved now. We're going to pull this down off the heat and let it cool off. Going to filter this again, not through the same filter, because we got some junk coming through here. So we're going to set up a whole new filter rig, filter our solution a second time. Now we're going to filter it a third time. It's definitely got some junk in it. So we're going to pour it back through this same filter this time. See if we can get some of the cloudiness out of our solution. This time we're going back through the same filter. Here we go with the first precipitation with sodium metabisulfite. Let's do a stannous chloride check. Make sure we've got all the gold precipitated. And you can see there, all the gold has come down. I'm going to set this up on the heat and let it come to a boil, and that'll cause it to settle out real good. Let's pour this waste off into a waste container and get our gold out of here. I'm rinsing with a little distilled water now. I'm going to add a little bit of hydrochloric acid. Give it a quick hydrochloric acid rinse here. Now we're going to put some hydrochloric acid in here and put it up on some heat. We're going to boil it in a little hydrochloric acid. I'm going to rinse the acid off of our gold now. It's been boiling in there for a few minutes. I'm going to pour it off into our temporary waste container here. Rinse it with some water. Starting to look pretty good now. Here's our pure gold. I'm going to add some hydrochloric acid to this. And we're going to put it up on the heat. I redissolved the gold a second time. Measure out about, let's say 40 milliliters, or just under 40. Pour that right on in. That should start dissolving immediately. All right, our solution is dissolved. I'm going to pick this up out of the way. And we're going to take this off the heat and let it cool down. Here I'm adding a few drops of sulfuric acid, just to make sure we get any lead out of there that might have made it this far into the process. I'm adding some ice to cool the solution off. Now we're going to filter our solution. Still got some junk in there. It's okay. Here we go with precipitation number 2. That should do it. It's looking a lot better this time now. Color of the gold looks much better. Alright, I'm not even going to test with Stannis. I know I've got this 100% dropped out of solution. Just going to put it up here and let it boil. This is looking real good now after doing that boil. So what we'll do is pour off this waste solution into my temporary waste container. Oh yeah, the gold's looking real good now after that second refining. Alright, here's a look at our gold. It's looking pretty good. This always seems to help. I give it a quick boil in some hydrochloric acid. Well, the gold's really looking good now. After boiling in hydrochloric acid, what we'll do is we'll pour this off now into this gold refining waste container. I'm going to rinse this over and over with some water to get most of this acid rinsed off of it. Oh yeah, this is really starting to look good now. This is how our gold should look. A nice caramel brown color. Alright, let's get our gold in a casserole here so we can get it dried off. Just try to get the excess water out of here so we can put it up on the heat and dry this powder off. Seems like when we dry it off, it melts a little better in the melt dish. Alright, we'll put this up on the heat and see if we can dry this off now. I think our powder's dried out now. Just going to bring it down here and let it cool down a little bit. Here you can see the time is 9 p.m. and we started about 7:20 a.m. So we've been at this all day. Now that I've got that gold powder dried off, I'm going to break it loose from the bottom of that dish and then add it to this melt dish. And then once we get it charged into the melt dish, we're going to take it over on the melt table and melt us up a nice gold bar. Just look at that high purity gold powder. It looks beautiful. I have some of this that's been 6 times refined for sale on my eBay site. And what I'll do is I'll put a link to that 6 times refined pure gold powder that I have for sale by the gram in the description of this video. Alright, look at that beautiful bar of pure gold. It's just gorgeous. The time up there is 9:15. We started about 7:15 or so this morning, so it's taken 14 hours to refine this nice little chunk of pure gold. Let's see what we got to weight. What the weight is on it. Let's see, we were expecting 88.2 was the estimated yield. We got 84.8. We're under by 3 or 4 grams or so. 3 grams. That's all right. There was some junk in that gold. I could tell when I melted it up, so I'm not concerned about that. This was a timed video, and we got to see each process, exactly where it falls in the entire refining process at the time that it occurs. All right, this will conclude the video. Thank you for watching.